Hello and welcome to this month's Creatrix Conversations. I'm going to be speaking today about how to practice and live in deep trust. I don't know about you, but trust has felt a little bit tricky at times. And this year especially, it's been such a challenging year, an intense year. It's been very confrontational to us in so many ways. But even before 2020, perhaps trust is something that you have struggled with. And at the same time, maybe you've had a sense that if I could only really have that faith and trust in myself, trusting in life, trusting in source, God, Goddess, if I could have that sense of trust, how wonderful life could be, your experience of life, right? It's true that every spiritual tradition throughout the ages, throughout the world, has spoken to the importance of trust. And this is no mistake, because without it, we get buffeted around between doubt and fear and all of that uncertainty that takes us off of our center, right? When we cultivate and when we live in trust, we know how to come to that still, calm center point in ourselves and to trust in the flow of life, right? So that's what I'm going to be speaking about today. Welcome, welcome. Beautiful to see women joining. Please say hello. And before I get too far, I will introduce myself. My name is Flora. I am the focalizer, the creatrix of the Awaken the Goddess Within community. I've been holding sacred space in this group for almost 4 years now, and it is truly my pleasure and my joy. And thank you for being here in this community. In my work, I am a leadership mentor and a sacred business coach for witches and spiritual entrepreneurs, and I am a priestess of the divine feminine. So today, I'm going to be sharing 5 ways that you can practice and cultivate that sense of trust. But before I get into those 5 ways, I want to define trust. What is trust, right? It's always good to start with a definition. And I'm not seeing any comments, so I'm a little bit concerned that maybe the comments aren't working on this live stream. Can somebody say hi so that I know if it's working? Otherwise, I'm going to bring it up on another screen. There we go. Okay, but what is trust, right? Actually, I'd love to hear your definitions too. What is trust? I went to dictionary.com and trust is a reliance on or confidence in the integrity, strength, or ability of a person or thing. How does that sound for a definition? Sounds pretty, right? Doesn't it? Reliance on or confidence in the integrity, strength, or ability of a person or thing. The secondary definition is to have a confident or hopeful expectation. And I love that one too, because that really speaks to the living in trust and having an ongoing confident or hopeful expectation, right? So it can feel like perhaps trust, that most often we are trusting in something outside of ourselves, right? We trust in that person or that thing. We trust in that hopeful outcome. But really what I want to talk about today is how our sense of trust in life and trust in the divine is really a mirror for our trust in ourselves. Okay, great. I've opened it up in a new screen, so I'm seeing hi Elsa, hi Connie, hi Heidi, hi Laree. Okay, wonderful. Well, I'll do my best in reading the comments on the secondary screen and staying present with you here. Yes, so what I just said, that our ability to trust in others, to trust in life, to trust in the divine is a mirror for how well we trust ourselves. And in preparing for this share today, I wanted to deepen into my own gnosis of trust, my own lived wisdom of trust. And so I did an exercise that we practice in the priestess lineage training that I am a part of, and in the practices that we do in my She Spirals temple, where we drop into what's called empty presence, to be empty and open, to be a channel, to receive. And so I did that practice, and because part of that practice of in the priestess lineage training that I am in is to embody and become what it is that we are wanting to know. So I dropped in, and with this statement in empty presence of I am trust. So here is my transmission to you of what I feel and know trust to be. I am trust. I am like gravity for your mind, keeping you tethered to the present moment in faith. I am trust. I recognize there are no mistakes, only lessons, and all that is meant to be is. I am trust. Feel my gentle presence in your heart center, calling you home from the traffic jam of your mind. I am trust. I wait calmly in the dark night, knowing the sun will rise again. So that is what came through in asking myself in emptiness, what is trust? And really, what are we trusting in? What are we trusting in? When, I'm saying, hey sisters, life is better when you live in trust. Well, what are we trusting in? So I believe that we are trusting in our inherent goodness, believing that at the core of ourselves, we are good, that we are trying our best, and therefore extending that belief to all others, that they are inherently good, that they are trying their best, even when in others it can feel very buried, right? And when we are able to step out of the judgmental thinking, the duality thinking of mistakes, right or wrong, good, bad, then trust helps us get there, that there are no mistakes. There's only lessons. It's all for our soul's growth. And so believing in human kindness the goodness and kindness of humans, believing in that, in fact, can bring that out in others, right? Have you experienced that? When you hold that belief for someone else, that it can bring it out in others. And even when we can look around, and if we choose to, we can look around and we can see it looks like, you know, the world is going to heck in a handbasket, right? And there's so much violence and racism, prejudice, greed, horrible, horrible things. We can choose to look at all of that. And it's real. It is real. However, we can also choose to see everything else that's going on. We can choose to see the generosity in people, the generosity of nature. We can choose to see that kindness and to amplify that in ourselves, and therefore we amplify it in others and what we see in the world. Beautiful, Laurie, you're echoing me. Generosity and non-judgment are an integral part of trust. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, sister. So when we are trusting, what are we trusting in? We're also trusting that the very life force itself, and what some people call God or the divine, that the pulse at the very center, that life force itself is inherently good, and it's in everything. And when we can trust in that, then we have something that we can feel held by, that we can feel guided by. And I'm going to get into more about that. But that is what I'm asking you to trust in. And if you still are healing your relationship to the divine, you know, you're still healing your God wound, if you will, right? Which is more often a religion wound. But then trust in yourself. I'm asking you to trust in yourself, trust in life itself. And for some, it is easier to feel like they can trust in a higher power, to trust in God, Goddess, Source. And then from cultivating that relationship in love and trust, then we realize that we are not separate from that. And therefore we come into trusting ourselves, right? Trust, gratitude, and hope are now my default settings. Trust, gratitude, and hope are now my default mental climate, if you will, inner climate. They're my default settings now. And of course, it wasn't always this way. It took a lot of mindset work, and it took a lot of spiritual practices to get to that place. But ultimately, what it really took was me choosing that. I came to a place where I chose to live in trust, in gratitude, and in hope. And this happened when when I transformed my victim consciousness, my victim mindset, that I was caught up in a lot of blame, and I felt like, you know, things happened to me, you know, like being a victim of my own life. I transformed my victim consciousness into creatrix consciousness, being in a more empowered position of consciousness, that I am at choice, and that I am co-creating my reality, my life, with the divine. So coming into creatrix consciousness is really key. You can't live in deep trust if you still feel like a victim to life. And now, trust does not deny life's difficulties. I want to make that clear. Having trust does not deny life's difficulties. I used to live in what I call now part-time faith. All right? Does anyone here can relate to that? Give me some thumbs up. Part-time faith. I had faith and I could live in trust, and I felt like I was in flow with the universe and being supported only when things were going the way that I wanted them to. And as soon as something didn't, something happened in life, then all of a sudden it was like, why am I not being supported by the universe anymore? Why aren't things going my way? And I would fall out of trust and faith. And looking back on all of that now, I of course chuckle because that was just indicating that I was still in that victim consciousness. I hadn't I wasn't living in deep trust, right? So part-time faith, right? When you only believe that you are, being supported when things are going the way that you want them to go. Because here's the thing. I now implicitly trust that whatever happens is for the greater good. And it's, for what's best for me. That whatever happens is what's meant to be, because it is what is. I can now implicitly trust that. I still have my moments where there's a gap between the initiation, between the challenge and me getting to that place of trust. Sure, I'm human, right? But more than ever now, I can quite immediately, even within the challenge, within the initiation, coming to that place of, oh, okay, this is happening, it's unexpected, but I trust that this is what is happening and it's for the greater good. At 42 years old now, I don't know how much more proof I need that I am supported, I am guided, I am loved unconditionally by the goddess, by the universe, by life, right? However you want to call it. And that whatever happens is what's meant to be happening. So, yes, this can come with experience, with maturity, if you will. At 42, I think I can finally say that I do have some maturity. But really, when I look back on my life, and even like the worst challenges or things that didn't happen the way that I wanted to, and then with that perspective of seeing, oh yeah, it totally needed to happen that way. So I encourage you to look, really look at your life from that empowered creatrix consciousness lens. And then think about that. How much more proof do you need? Right? How much more proof do you need? So, here we go. We're going to get into the 5 ways that you can practice, cultivate, and live in deep trust. Okay? So the first I already spoke into a little bit, but it's gratitude. Having a gratitude practice. Cultivating that attitude of gratitude, if you will. This was key for me about 5 years ago, for me to really shift everything. And I've spoken about this before, but there's always new women joining the community. So for me, it was journaling. I love to journal. So I started gratitude journaling every day, because I was in a place where I was discontented and unhappy and feeling frustrated with my life. And so at the time, it felt like the opposite thing that I needed, right? What did I have to be grateful for when I was discontented and frustrated with my life? So when I started my gratitude practice, of course, it allowed me to be in that daily habit of appreciation. And what you focus on, you see more of. So what you appreciate appreciates in your life. And so if for you like to journal, I really encourage you, start a gratitude journaling practice. You're just, weave it in to your regular journaling practice. Or get into the habit of saying your gratitudes out loud, right? Around the dinner table with your family maybe, or in some other practice that you have, sharing with someone. What are you grateful for? It can sound trite, I know, but when you count your blessings and you realize how much you have to be grateful for and to appreciate, then that feels like it's more. And so that's a really important first step, a daily habit of gratitude and appreciation. Let me know if you already have a gratitude practice. I would love to see that. Number 2, accept your interdependence. What I mean by that is, so many of us in this society, in this 21st century, have bought into the false belief that we are totally independent and that we don't need help or support. We can do it all ourselves. And you can see even with my language, right? I'm blocking receiving. That mentality, no, I'm good. I'm a strong, fiercely independent person. Thank you very much. I can do it all myself. Block, block, block. We are not independent. We are not in control. And when we accept our interdependence, we can accept this and receive help. We can receive guidance. Spirit works through other people in our lives, right? I'm sure you've experienced that. It's not like we only receive spiritual guidance from, on the energetic plane, right? When we ask for help and we don't know how it's going to come, and then someone comes into our life, or an opportunity or an invitation comes in, and it's Spirit moving through the people in our lives, but only if we're open to accept help. And so we must accept that we are interdependent. So much of our stress and our struggle comes, there's this floating dust around here. It's like a little fairy. So much of our stress and struggle comes from our attempts to manipulate the outcome, right? Who's guilty of this? When we want something so bad, right? And so we're trying to control it, control how it happens, control when it happens, manipulate the outcome. And with that control, we've got that stranglehold on it, and we're not allowing in synchronicity, fate, support, what's actually really meant to happen. Because sometimes it doesn't happen the way we want it. Oftentimes it doesn't happen the way we think it's going to or want to happen. And then it happens in some other new and amazing way. Right? So our lives, our future is a co-creation. Yeah. Our lives and our future is a co-creation. So that's number 2, to accept your interdependence. So number 3, and this is a sensitive one, but number 3, to help you practice and cultivate and live in deep trust, you may need to get professional help to heal. Our early environment and our relationship to our caregivers, the mental and emotional state of our caregivers when we are infants that's what impacts us in our ability our capacity to trust, right? So, I acknowledge my privileges right now in this moment, of which I have many. acknowledging my white privilege, acknowledge my North American Canadian privilege, my physical ability. I'm, able-bodied, neurotypical, all of these privileges. And when it comes to my family, we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of love. And that unconditional love that I experienced as a child, and that continues to this day, is, I now consider, the most valuable currency that my family could have had. And so I know that not everyone has been fortunate for that. And so if you know, or if you sense that your early environment and the mental and emotional state of your primary caregivers was perhaps stressed or compromised in some way, then that could be why your capacity to trust is affected. Because our issues of safety and of worthiness are imprinted on us at this age. So that's why number 3, I wanted to bring this up, that if you haven't already, you may want to consider some professional support to heal. Now, I know there's lots of criticism out there about, clinical therapy and all of that, but, and how effective it is. And certainly we can get addicted to negative introspection, right? If we get addicted to negative introspection, that's actually very damaging to our soul. And we can kind of keep on unearthing old wounds and almost being like re-traumatized. And that's not a good thing either. But I do bring this up because this is really important, that you may need it to help increase your capacity to trust. And so number 4, I'm going to move on to number 4. The 4th way that you can cultivate and live in deep trust is to surround yourself with like-minded people. When you surround yourself with like-minded kin, then you feel understood. You feel supported, right? That's one of the reasons why I created this community, is so that we could have this sacred online space, that we could have this sense of community to tap into and to share life's journey together. So when we surround ourselves with like-minded kin, we're reminded of our potential, and we're uplifted back into trust. And I will say that, especially this year, it's been so important for us to feel connected online when so many of us have been in home quarantine, sheltering in place. And yet we know that it's the people that we do see face to face in our physical reality that is really key. And so if you feel like you maybe don't have those people that really get you on that soul level, surrounded by the like-minded kin, then that could be a really important step for you to reach out to find new people in your community that you can really be present with. Okay? Yes, beautiful sister. Reminded of our potential. This is what I experience in intentional women's community groups. Yes, we are sacred mirrors for each other. We reflect our wisdom back to each other. We reflect our beauty and our magic and our potential to each other. So that's why this is the 4th important way that you can live in deep trust, is to surround yourself with people who are also choosing this, who are choosing to live in trust, right? And finally, number 5, the 5th and final way, you must have embodied spiritual practices. You must have embodied spiritual practices. If your faith is only in your head, it's incomplete. When your daily life is an expression of what you believe, when your daily life is an expression of your values and your faith, then you have more touch points to bring you back to center. So this is what I mean by embodied practices, right? Then this is why I'm a big proponent for cyclic living. That when we live in tune with the moon, when we live in tune with the seasons and the wheel of the year, then we have ongoing regular reminders to bring us back to center, to bring us back into that choice to trust in life. So I'm curious if this is something for you right now, where you're realizing, right, my belief system is all up here. That's why you need embodied spiritual practices that you are living. And this is one of the reasons why I am so thrilled and honored to lead retreats. Actually, for reason number 4, to surround yourself with like-minded kin, and number 5, to have embodied spiritual practices. My next Awaken the Goddess Within retreat is happening in May of 2021. And we are meeting at the Epona Rise Retreat Center just outside of Kamloops, BC, here in Canada. And this is 4 nights and 3 days of workshops, rituals, and ceremonies. 3 days of being in that sacred sisterhood. And to experience that, being face to face, being in the same room as women who are choosing trust and on the path. And we are going to be doing a lot of embodied spiritual practices, as well as communing with nature. The horses, there's going to be some intuitive horse sessions with the Epona Rise herd. Yes, Pam, I know, I can't wait for the retreat. It got postponed from this year. It was supposed to be this year, but, COVID. So that's an opportunity for you if that's something that's calling you. There's still a few spaces open for the Awaken the Goddess Within retreat next May. Thank you. Yeah, so that's many months away. And that's the thing. So I don't want you to wait, even if you decide to come to the retreat. I don't want you to wait until next May to start having embodied spiritual practices. And it can be as simple as having an altar somewhere in your home where you take time to pray or to meditate every day. It can be as simple as tuning in to cyclic living with the moon. Maybe you use one of my guides to help you so you know when to look for the moon, where to look for the moon, and what that means for you. Yeah, okay, so sister, I'm so glad you shared that and you said, I fail to live this daily. I don't like that word. There's no failures. There's no failure, right? That's that dualistic thinking of judgment, right or wrong, good or bad, failure, success. I'm reminding you today, all it needs, even 5 minutes every day, first thing when you wake up, coming into your body and listening, or 5 minutes before you go to bed, right? We can overcomplicate it and think, whoa, embodied spiritual practice, that sounds complicated, or that sounds like it would take a lot of time and I don't have a lot of time, right? It doesn't. But I'm talking about living and embodying what you believe. And there's no failure. All right? There's no failure. So, to recap these 5 ways to practice and live in deep trust. Number 1 is gratitude. Make a daily habit of gratitude and appreciation and watch your life bloom. Number 2, accept your interdependence. And this will allow you to be open and receptive to divine support. Number 3, you may want to get professional support to heal from any imprinting from your early childhood that limits your capacity to trust, that has you believing that you aren't worthy, all of that. Number 4, surround yourself with like-minded kin, right? You're in this community already. Is there ways that you could lean in more, right? Making more connections and friendships through this community, or finding people in where you live to meet with, to feel supported and feel understood by people in your reality. And number 5, embodied spiritual practices in your daily life that constantly remind you to come back to center, that remind you of your values, that remind you, hey, wait, I believe in the inherent goodness of life, the inherent goodness of people. That's what I want to trust in. I trust in God, Goddess, Source, the universe. I trust in that energy and that it's inherently good. And that what is meant to be is. Yes. And to close this out today, I want to end with a song that sums all of this up in a beautiful way. You're so welcome, sisters. Beautiful. It's really right now, more than ever, we need to have the tools and the reminders to come back to trust in this, what we're seeing, this outpicturing of a very destructive energy in the world. Because ultimately, what is being reborn, what is being rebuilt from this, trusting in that process. So to close this out today, I would like to sing a song by Alexa Sunshine Rose. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. May you feel the gentle presence of trust in the center of your heart, calling you home from the traffic jam of your mind. Blessed be. So much love, sisters.